Minecraft is one of the highest selling video games of all time. First properly released in 2011, the game was the biggest indie success story. Its iconic design and fun gameplay and just dumb good luck put Marcus Persson, better known as Notch, in his studio Mojang on the map and ended up joining the Microsoft family 3 years later. While Minecraft is definitely past its prime, the game still holds up today, as it still has a high player base. While Notch stepped down from the studio years ago, the game still lives on. The idea of Minecraft is simple. Either spawn in a randomly generated world and survive against mobs and build a shelter, or get creative and build whatever you want in the sandbox. There are a lot of rip-offs out there that tried to piggyback on the success of this game, but Minecraft dominated all games in its golden age. The game did decline in popularity once Microsoft purchased Mojang, and that was because of pointless updates that made the game more confusing than simple. Minecraft as a game was not the kind of game designed for a sequel, since it relies on updates and such to keep the game alive. But that hasn't stopped spin-offs from existing, the first of which was Minecraft Story Mode. Originally released on October 2015, Minecraft Story Mode is an episodic click-and-point adventure game developed by Telltale Games, developers of other interactive games, such as The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Tales from the Borderlands, and other franchises. I haven't played the other Telltale games, aside from maybe a bit of Back to the Future, but according to critics that have, Minecraft Story Mode is very akin to those other games. This game was hyped up about being a game where you make choices and stuff you'd see in the marketing for a Fallout game. But does it deliver? Nope. I've played this game a decent amount of times trying to do different choices and responses, and the result is always the same. Something might change, but it's disregarded as soon as we get to the next chapter. Believe me, if you thought Fallout 4 had a lack of player choice, then wait until you play this game. Now, there do exist a lot of games that are less about what you do, and more so how you do it, but this game doesn't embrace that style either. Morality in this game is always facing up. You have to be the good guy. When I get into the actual story, I'll be able to explain it better. I won't talk about gameplay much, since it's just about pointless. This is an interactive movie at its core, so don't expect anything like combat to be spoken about much. This game might have been a feature-length film, because it's that linear of a plot. In fact, the game even has a Netflix port that uses the remote. Jesus Christ! Looking at the front cover, it's nothing special, just the main characters with the main antagonist in the back. You'll quickly realize that Steve and Alex aren't in this cover. Let's talk about that. Minecraft Story Mode doesn't utilize the full character selection of Minecraft. While it has the mobs and graphics and stuff, it doesn't have anything like Notch, it doesn't embrace any urban legends like Herobrine, it just makes stuff up on its own. Since Steve and Alex are in-universe Minecraft characters, it's baffling why they don't make an appearance in this game. A cameo would be nice. Apparently, the reason they didn't want Steve or Alex is because they didn't want a change in perception of what the character was, because they're intended to be a blank slate. But that doesn't explain why they wiped the slate clean. If this is a game based around player choice, then Steve would have been a reflection of the player's in-game decisions. But fine, he's not in this game. Let's just see what this game has to offer, and hey, even with this drawback, the game may still surprise us. Let's get into it. As previously mentioned, this is episodic, and part 1 will focus on the first episode, which is 2 hours long, so we have plenty of time to talk about it. We get to choose from 6 of the character skins. I go with first male skin because reasons, and I start up the damn game. First episode, The Order of the Stone. Before the first cutscene starts, the game lies to your face by saying, and I quote, "The game series adapts to the choices you make. The story is tailored to how you play." Dirty, stinking liars. I'll prove why this isn't the case. The start of the game is fancy narration schlock that is designed to be deep and crap. Lots of stories do this, and it isn't exactly a cliche that's gotten old yet, so I'll let it slide. They talk about how legends fade with time, blah 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 blah, before the narrator talks about a group of heroes, the Order of the Stone, consisting of Gabriel the Warrior, Elagard the Redstone Engineer, Magnus the Rogue, and Soren the Architect. Basically, years ago, these 4 chaps entered the Ender Portal and defeated the Ender Dragon in a team effort. The game establishes that these guys became legends, We then cut to our main characters after all that. We're introduced to Jesse, the player character, and his friend Olivia. When my brother played this game, he asked me if Olivia was his girlfriend or wife, and I had to explain that no, everyone in this world are friends, with that being the closest people can be in this asexual world. Although I did recall having a dream once of Jesse and Olivia romantically embracing each other. That's great fan fiction material, but nothing else. Since this is a kid's game, and kids are too immature to understand romance, no, this game does not allow you to get a girlfriend or boyfriend. I'd only imagine how different this game could be if it allowed something like that. But I'm glad they didn't include any romance options in this game, because the dialogue is cringe. The first choice we get is when Olivia asks you if you would rather fight 100 chicken-sized zombies or 10 zombie-sized chickens.
Huh? What?
It's just a dumb question. Forget it.
What the hell was that?
This dialogue option is pointless and goes absolutely nowhere, which I guess in a lot of RPGs it's the same there, but this is just such a weird thing to open the game with. And of course, you only have a limited time to choose or Jesse will stay silent. Most of the time, I choose the silent option because I really don't want to hear any more of the cringy dialogue. Believe me when I say, the Bakugan game was written way better. Olivia talks about a daylight sensor for Reuben the pig, our pet. Oh great, the game assumes you don't eat pork, which is an out-of-touch assumption. Well, Jesse says that Reuben's coming along with them to the building convention they're competing in. Of course, the game made that choice for us. If it were up to me, I'd choose to have Reuben cooked by now for a barbecue. Also, something really strange is that instead of using audio files from normal pigs, they got an actual voice actor to voice Reuben, though he has no dialogue. D. Bradley Baker. Strange, but whatever. Of course I don't respond because I wouldn't know how to respond. And of course, this is a type of story where the heroes start off as nobodies. Olivia mentions a past history of being called losers, relatable, and of course none of our dialogue options here mean anything. Regardless, we're interrupted with a creeper jump scare.
Oh no.
That turns out to be a friend of Olivia and Jesse, Axel. Axel is a walking fat joke. He's just there to fit the typical plus-sized comic relief role. And really, that's how you introduce him? First impressions matter a lot. And my first impressions is that he's a gelatinous, obese, rotund fat ass. Axel mocks all of us for falling for his prank, and we're forced to be this guy's friend. We don't get a choice to kick him out. Axel puts an Ender Dragon costume on Reuben, and none of this is relevant. We essentially go and collect our crap in chests and stuff, and we talk to our friends, the first of which I'm indifferent to, and the second is a fat ass. On the walk away from the treehouse, Axel tells us that he heard a rumor, that being that the winner of the building competition we're going to compete in gets to meet the previously established Gabriel the Warrior. Then we go on to debating what we should build. 3 options, either a creeper, enderman, or zombie. And let me tell you, aside from cosmetic differences, they don't make a single difference. You can win the competition with both. I decide to do the enderman. Afterwards we get the remaining materials, which we didn't get earlier for some reason. And if I had the rights to the Rocky soundtrack, I'd use the classic motivational music over this footage. So just imagine the Rocky music over this footage. Afterwards, we finally get to the actual building competition. We're introduced to our rivals, the Ocelots, led by a guy called Lucas, and his friends are a bunch of like, these characters are stereotypical bullies in a movie about school, and we all know that bullies in movies are one-dimensional. Later, the game tries to get us to like Lucas, which is just insulting because his friends are the typical scumbag characters. So next we have to choose a team name. The other options were just plain silly, so I just go with Dead Enders. So we go over to our building booth, and we're caught staring at the chumps, and we're introduced to another essential character, Petra. Every character here is a walking stereotype. According to the developers themselves, each of the heroes is supposed to be an archetype of Minecraft players. So Olivia is the redstone gal, Axel is the griefing guy, Lucas is the building guy, and Petra is the fighting gal. And Jesse, well, he's just a loser, a noob. Seriously, he's terrible hero material. It's a miracle, in fact, that he survived the first episode, let alone the entire adventure. I wish we had something about him that made him more believable. I don't buy that this guy could fight a zombie with full diamond armor and weaponry, even to save his life. But anyways, as I said, we're introduced to Petra, where she reveals that she helped out Lucas and the Ocelots with getting a Nether star, before she walks off without even facing our direction, because the game wants to make her look cool. Lucas, indifferent about the crap his teammates gave us, tries to tell us about how we should make this a game about having fun. That crappy motto in sports movies, blah 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 blah, not true in the slightest. I don't answer because Jesse would probably say something cringe otherwise. With that, the building competition starts. After a pointless choice of coming up with a handshake that's only referenced once from this point forward, we start building our thing. We display the fireworks to get people to notice us. It seems like an easy victory, when one of the Ocelots, Aiden, tries to destroy the build, and the lava causes Ruben, who's wearing that Ender costume, remember, to shriek and go running into the woods. Why Ruben didn't just jump into the nearby water, I don't have a goddamn clue. We have to choose whether to get Axel and Olivia to assist us in finding Ruben, or to get them to save our build. I go with the latter. I go running into the woods on my own. Basically, the next segment is a bunch of navigating. It's the first time since the treehouse we actually get to move around. Basically, we have a look around, we get a carrot, find the charred remains of the Ender costume with no Ruben about, and then we finally find him. But then the classic Minecraft enemies decide to attack us, and we've got the worst combat system ever. The combat is very limiting. You basically have to switch between two targets and attack them. There's nothing more to it. I've explained everything. After killing both of them, the wooden sword breaks and it looks like we're done for. So we get Ruben to run for his own good. Then Petra shows up to save us and we escape. We follow Petra into a cave and she shows us something. She possesses a wither skull and says that she's going to trade it with a guy at EnderCon. Basically, this is the game's thing it throws at you to get you into this deal with Petra, and you don't have the option of saying no. That's the problem. You can't say no, you don't get a choice, so whatever. Petra gets you to build a new sword, and we go to see EnderCon nearby, and Jesse says that his team won. As you've probably guessed by now, if you got Axel and Olivia to assist you in the search, you would have lost. But guess what? Whether it be a victory or a loss, the only differences are cosmetic changes in certain places and dialogue. And then after it's done with, it's completely forgotten about from this path forward. Petra tries to get you to warm up to Lucas, I say no, but the game is going to force you to befriend Lucas anyways. So why give us this dialogue shtick? And then Jesus Christ, more mobs! We get another fake choice on whether to fight or jump off the bridge, but either way, you're jumping off anyways. We get this slow motion crap, and must I say, I really hate the characters' expressions in this game. They're really cheesy. I've seen better animations in unofficial animated videos, like Fallen Kingdom. So point is, we swim to EnderCon, and of course we're forced into doing this deal with Petra. We talk to Axel and Olivia for a bit, and then we go with Petra into a dark alleyway to do a drug deal, aka the Wither Skull transaction. We're introduced to the guy when Petra tells us that she's going to see if it's the correct spot. While she's gone, we're introduced to Ivor, this creepy guy who looks like he and was sent to jail for now he's out of prison, and Petra trusts him even though he's been registered as a But anyways, our first impressions are bad. We're introduced to a creepy, rude, and unkempt guy. You can either sour the deal, or make Ivor wait for another minute. But this choice is pointless because Petra arrives back in time anyways. So we do the deal, and when Petra asks us for our diamond, he tells us it's in the chest. So we have a look in the chest, but instead of finding a diamond, we find lapis. Oh, that is the oldest Minecraft prank in the book. Like, two players trade something for diamonds, but the buyer scams the customer by giving him lapis instead of diamonds. There is absolutely no way you can avoid being scammed. Player choice, ladies and gents. So Ivor runs off with the skull and we chase him. And we have to find him. We basically have to have a look around. And we can waste our time doing random crap. Along the way, we meet Lucas and the game forces us to make nice with him. We don't get a choice of being antagonistic. We eventually go on to inform Axel about our search, but he's too distracted by the chickens he's watching. Eventually, we meet up with the who forced Ruben to run into the woods. We shove him aside and continue our search.
Aiden, you idiot!
Hey, who are you calling an idiot? You, now move! Hey!
We accidentally bump into the wrong person and reunite with Ruben. Hint, it doesn't matter whether you decide to have him run for his life or not. He's still going to end up in this situation. Our butcher is going to cook him and serve him for public consumption. So we threaten him with our sword and he gives us Ruben.
Give me back my pig.
Afterwards, we tell Olivia of what happened, and she decides to help us too. We see Ivor go into the hall, and we can't get past the guard to the hall. Of course, the guard won't let us through. Even though going back to the building competition, the announcer said the winner would meet Gabriel the Warrior. We won that competition, yet we don't have an easy way in. So regardless of whether you won or lost, you need to get into the hall using other means. We find out that the guard has a weird phobia of chickens, so we decide to break a window up top and release the chickens. So we'll need to get a slime block, and we're forced to meet with the person we originally thought was Ivor, and we essentially receive 2 slime balls. Since they're on a limited supply, why can't we just be a scumbag and steal the slime block without remorse, and have the player character take his first steps towards evil? I have no idea. So we can get Lucas to give us a slime ball. So we get the complete amount of slime balls and craft a slime block, and we use it to break the window, letting all the chickens out. The guard freaks out and we use that opportunity to run past him. So while the Gabriel the Warrior keynote thing is going on, we follow Ivor into the basement and we have a look around. Along the way, we take a potion he left lying there. We eventually get to a secret wall where we find out that he has 2 wither skulls already, but then Lucas realized something.
Soul sand plus 3 wither skulls. That's the recipe for a wither.
But a wither? That's...
one of the worst monsters there is.
Then we hear Ivor come into the basement and we have to hide. Why? We outnumber him 5-1. Technically 6 if you include Ruben. So of course we don't get the choice to kill him and voila, game over. But we just demand we give him the diamond he promised Petra. Of course, Ivor builds an iron golem and attacks us, and we have to get the hell out of there. But just when we get out of the basement, we realize as Lucas is still down there. Good, but fine, I'll go back down there to save him. If you choose to save him, it just pads the game out by 5 minutes. He escapes out of there on his own anyway, so what's the point? Once we escape, we see our buddies try to tell Gabriel about what happened in the basement, but he doesn't listen. Then Ivor raises his hand and asks Gabriel a question on whether anyone can achieve true greatness. Gabriel tells him that with enough hard work, yes, and then Ivor's like,
Was that where I went wrong? I simply didn't work hard enough?
Ivor? Is that really you? How dare you interrupt like this?
How do you know who he is?
I don't know if I ever really knew him. But what I did know, I didn't like.
The feeling is entirely mutual. Why don't you tell them the real story, Gabriel?
I see time has made you bitter.
And it's made you an even bigger fool. Now these people were promised greatness, and I'm ready to deliver. I'm sorry this is how they had to learn the truth.
What's he doing?
Then we get the Wither model out and creates the Wither. And even though Gabriel or really anyone else had time to stop him, they don't, and Ivor creates the Wither. Basically this Wither absorbs blocks to make it more powerful and larger. Of course Gabriel can't defeat it, as his sword does nothing. Then Ivor tries commanding the Wither to retreat. When that doesn't work, he tries using a potion, the one we stole to destroy the creature. So obviously it doesn't work, and we try using it, but the command block is covered up, and without it being exposed, the potion is useless. So Ivor's plan backfired, so Ivor runs off. For some reason, we stick around to talk instead of running off immediately. Gabriel asks us for our help, and since we don't have a choice anyways, we accept. And he tells us to follow him to his temple. So the game is running for a solid 5 minutes, probably more. We save Petra from being absorbed into the Wither, and for the next few minutes, we run faster than Indiana Jones. and when we eventually get to the temple, Gabriel gives us an amulet and tells us to get the other members of the Order of the Stone so they can fight the Wither. And then we've got another illusion of choice when both Gabriel and Petra are about to be absorbed by the Wither, and you have to choose who to save. This is the kind of choice where they just swap each other out later on, with no real differences whatsoever, just a change in voice actor. To be fair, there is a certain other game I can think of that does the same thing, but in that game, no, I'm not going to name it, it does it far better because it was less about the impact of the choice, but rather that you had to make the choice in the first place. Plus, the two characters in the game I'm referencing were actually interesting and it served an important purpose, even if it wasn't at face value. So we go and save Gabriel and not our actual friend Petra, because I desperately wanted to be a scumbag in this game, but I wish you had the choice of saving neither and just running to the Nether portal, which is the room we're in, and it's our escape ticket. On the other side, we meet up with Axel, Olivia and Lucas. We wait to see whether Petra will go through the portal, but instead we get Ivor, and again we have an ample opportunity to kill him, but the game doesn't let us. The most we can do is punch his face. He tells us that there's a bunch of minecarts nearby that will take us to where we need to go. Then he drinks an invisibility potion and vanishes. Ta-da! Our ghast forces us to run and we get into the minecarts. The following sequence is just a bunch of spectacle where we try to survive whatever the Nether has to throw at us. Since there's not much plot here, let's just skip to the other portal. So point is, we come across another portal, we have no idea what's on the other side, and so I volunteer to go through the portal first, which leads to a waterfall, and we kill the zombie there. So the rest of the team goes through the portal, and we figure we need to build a shelter. Olivia recommends building a treehouse, while Axel just tells us to build a quick dirty hut. This is another case of the illusion of choice, since the only difference is cosmetic. Well, I decide to build a dirty hut, and that's where we stay for the night. To try and drag some drama into the plot, Axel and Lucas have an argument, and I side with Axel because I'm trying to be as close to a bad guy as possible. So point is, Lucas decides to leave and it's just the four of us now, Ruben included. The next morning we meet up with Lucas, who survived the night out in the open, and we go hiking for a bit and find the place we're supposed to be, the Order of the Stone Temple. We go walking inside, but just like Indiana Jones, there's a bunch of traps and we have to get out of this jam somehow. I decide to build a bow and use arrows to stop the pressure plate. After that, we come across a library where we get one of this game's plot twists. We read a book that tells us that Ivor was actually a member of the Order of the Stone. So the game implies at this point that Ivor was mad because he wasn't mentioned. But that doesn't make me sympathize with him one bit, you know, because he unleashed a monster on the world. So we come across the top floor, and basically what we're supposed to do is put the amulet on a pedestal and switch a bunch of levers to get the map in the pedestal to work. I spent like 10 minutes trying to figure it out, the longest I ever spent doing this puzzle. This is why I hate puzzles. So point is, the whole thing reveals itself to be a tracking system, and we quickly figure out that the colors on the map, green and red, are the colors of Magnus the Rogue and Ellegaard the Redstone Engineer. Neither Gabriel the Warrior or Soren the Architect are on the map, meaning that they're either dead or currently not in the overworld. And here, we finally get some player choice. No, really. We get to decide on whether to go where Magnus is or where Ellegaard is. And it actually alterates the story a bit in the following episodes. Sure, it eventually leads to the same damn thing, but it's actually something resembling player choice. Axel wants to go find Magnus, while Olivia wants to go find Ellegaard. Since this is literally the only real choice in the entirety of the first 4 episodes, which is Jesse's first adventure, I'm going to let you, the viewers, decide on where we should go. Should we get the help of Magnus or Ellegaard? Axel or Olivia? Boomtown or Redstonia? We'll be putting up a poll that will let you decide, but whatever gets the most votes, I will do. If you want to ask me my personal preference, I would prefer Magnus. I've played through both and I prefer the former, but again, it's up for you to decide. And that just about wraps up the first episode of Minecraft Story Mode. Thanks for watching, and until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes?